Thank you for joining us today for a snippet on how to avoid death by PowerPoint. While other formats are starting to show up, such as Prezi, PowerPoint continues to be the most popular format for presentations around the world. A few years ago, PowerPoint was new and exciting, and people marveled at this way of providing information. It was so much easier than the slide decks of the previous generation. Then PowerPoint became the go-to presentation format, and it became easier and easier to use, so everyone joined the PowerPoint bandwagon. Ease of use, however, tends to lead to tedious, uninspiring presentations. So before authoring your next PowerPoint, take a look at these tips for avoiding death by PowerPoint. The following infographic will provide some tips on how to improve your PowerPoint. You can download this infographic on the snippet page. It can be printed as big as you want, and then you can hang it on the wall in your faculty room or your resident call room or wherever. Originally, PowerPoint was meant to be used as an aid. Too often, though, presenters rely on PowerPoint to be the presentation. Here are some of the most common pitfalls that lead to uninspiring presentations. Reading the slides. Most people are reading your slides already. It's just human nature. Presenters should never read their slides word for word. Occasionally glancing at your slides to keep your train of thought is fine, but reading is not. Too many slides for content. Less is more when it comes to PowerPoint. We all internally groan when a presenter has 70 slides to go through in a 60-minute presentation. So think carefully about how many slides you have in your presentation. Poorly designed slides. Slides that are too busy, too hard to read, too dark, too bright. All of these can cause issues. Sometimes slides that look just perfect on your computer look poor on another computer or on one of the electronic projection screens that we run into now and then. One piece of advice is to get there early enough to review your slides in the environment in which they will be reviewed, and then you can adjust them as necessary before the audience shows up. The average slide has 40 words. That's a lot of words. A 5-sentence paragraph is about 50 words, so try to keep your word count down. Primarily, this is done by avoiding writing out full sentences. Use phrases, or just use key words. Remember, the PowerPoint is an aid. It is not meant to be the entire presentation. PowerPoint has certainly become user-friendly. Most people can manage the basics with ease. With a bit of trial and error, adding a bit of animation is really not that difficult and can really improve your PowerPoint. The animation ribbon is fairly self-explanatory, or you can choose tutorials on your YouTube for just about every aspect of PowerPoint. One of the biggest advantages of PowerPoint is that you can incorporate elements that a written report might not have. One example of this is charts. Another is color. But let's first discuss charts. These are the key questions you should think about when you decide to add a chart to your PowerPoint. Later on, we will get into the specifics of charts. Key question number 1, what is the key message? What are you trying to convey with this chart? And then that would lead you to number 2. Do you really need a chart to support your key message? Don't insert a chart just because you think you need to have a chart in every single presentation. Question number 3, what type of chart should you use? This is often something that people wrestle with, and later on this infographic, we have a breakdown of the different types of charts. How should you design your chart? Well, now we're talking about things that would make it easier for the audience to see and understand, and color is one of those attributes. So let's talk about color and charts. Often the difference between a chart that is easy to read on a PowerPoint slide is the use of color. Here are things that you want to do. You want to use differentiated colors for different series. When you have a multiple sets of series on a graph, choosing different colors for each set of data will help the audience grasp the difference between the data sets. Using color gradations to portray a general trend is also a good idea. On a chart that is made up of numbers, use gradation in color to show the up and down trends. It's one thing to discuss the trends verbally during your presentation, which of course you would want to do, but it will really drive your point home if you show the trends with gradations. For instance, if something is going up, the human brain will respond that this is going up if I use the color green. If something is going down, to use the color red, and so on. Here are some things to avoid when doing color on your chart. Very high color contrast is disturbing to those who are looking at it. So use the color combinations that are preset by the PowerPoint program, and usually that will prevent too much contrast. And then one other thing that many people don't keep in mind is that 1/10 of males are blue-green blind. So do keep that thought in mind while you're designing your chart. This chart shows which is the best type of chart to use for the type of data that you have. On the chart types, you see compare data, break data into parts, see data over time. And then it gives you a really great tool for seeing which one works best with your particular data. All of these are available in the PowerPoint Insert Chart section. Let's talk a minute about what some of the research on learning from brain research has taught us. Human brains aren't designed for reading spreadsheets. So columns and rows of numbers are not really what you should put into a presentation. You should limit that type of data. So please use the chart maker, again, which is found in PowerPoint, to present your data in another way. It's much better to have a bar graph or a pie chart or an area graph than to have numbers in columns and rows. Some more ideas on when to use charts. Again, use the Insert Chart command in PowerPoint to make these charts. Here they've listed several different types of data. So there's a lot that you can do with a chart. When it comes to actually putting in numbers, there's some good tips to remember also. You want to help the brain. It's easier to understand the numbers if you write a large number as an abbreviation. If you wrote 12,600,000 out as a number with all those zeros, your audience is going to have to count zeros, and they might not realize how big that number is. But if you write 12.6 million as words, as they have done here, then that's much easier to grasp. Also, numbers should be lined up on a data chart so that you can tell the difference between 20 and 200 and 2,000 and 20,000 by left justifying them. Please do not center numbers. That is one of the ways that you can really mislead your audience, because then if you center 20 and 200 and 2,000, they look almost the same, and they aren't. While I mentioned animation on an earlier section, let's look at some of the specifics of when it's a good idea to animate. You want to draw attention to an important point, say a phrase, or sometimes even a single word, and this can be done by having it grow or spin. You want to share information in a phased manner. With animation, you can control the display of information. Use this when you want to have people pay attention to what you are discussing at that moment and not read ahead of what you're going to discuss in a minute or two. Or when you have too much information to present. It's better to animate and present in a sequence instead of presenting it all at once. By controlling the flow of information with your animation, you keep the audience focused on you, the presenter, and not the PowerPoint. As we come to the close of our discussion of PowerPoint, let's touch on design and presentation. Quality, not quantity. Remember, less is more when it comes to PowerPoint. Graphics that make sense. Don't use graphics unless they will add to your message. Sometimes people put graphics on a slide for interest, but yet it detracts from their actual message. Slideshow, not a fireworks show. Don't go overboard with animation just for the sake of animation. Think about what we discussed previously. When do you use animation? When you want to control the message. PowerPoint can be exciting and create interactive discussions. However, keep these principles in mind. Use charts, color, and animation to help you connect with your audience. Use slides sparingly. The presentation is the presenter, not the other way around. If you want to learn more about PowerPoint design, there are many resources on the internet about PowerPoint. Here I've listed the resources that I used for this infographic. but a simple Google search on PowerPoint tips and tricks will result in a plethora of tutorials. Thank you for joining us today for our snippet on PowerPoint. A new educational snippet will be posted next month. Look forward to these and many other educational products from Partners in Medical Education. We are here to partner with you for all your program or institutional needs.